The White House setting up a meeting with major American oil companies to discuss reviving the industry in Venezuela. Representatives from Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and ExxonMobil expected to speak with Energy Secretary Chris Wright later this week. That's down in Miami at an energy conference that was apparently pre-planned. Former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman told our very own Brian Brinberg this operation will have an impact on other U.S. adversaries.
A lot of Venezuela's oil and gas was going to Iran, also to Cuba. And so there will be an impact on those two countries. We have to be prepared for more unrest in Cuba and potentially destabilization of that communist regime. I fully expect that Russia and Iran, maybe China, Cuba, will be trying to do what they can to ensure that we're not successful in Venezuela. But they don't have the throw weight in our hemisphere that they enjoyed in the Middle East.
DeRoy, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Your reaction to what we're hearing so far?
Sure. Well, the first thing is to congratulate President Trump, Secretaries Hegseth and Rubio, and our GIs in uniform who were able to execute this mission, get in, grab Mr. and Mrs. Maduro, and get out in 15 minutes, not lose any Americans, no U.S. casualties, no loss of U.S. equipment. That's absolutely amazing. So applause all around for them. That was the easy part. Now here comes the tough part. Let's say that in a couple of weeks, a dozen executives from Exxon decide they want to go in and inspect petroleum facilities in Venezuela. Will they be safe? Will they be able to get in and out without any trouble, or will people shoot at them? Yeah. Will they be held hostage, either as an official action of the Venezuelan government, or just as a rogue action by some other folks who decide, no, we don't really like the gringos. Let's see what we can do. So this really gets the whole question of, do you find some way of pacifying Venezuela sufficiently so you can have elections and get in a pro-American, pro-capitalist government? And if that doesn't happen, what happens in the interim? So I think there are a lot of questions. We're all cheerful about having Maduro locked up a few miles from here rather than destroying his country. But I think we have a way to go before we have that place sufficiently quiet so that we can have the affluorescence that we all want to see.
You know, I kind of agree with that. You know, Dagan, we could argue about if there's 100 billion or 300 billion in oil reserves. And Brian, I think to your point, I mean, it matters, but like it's a big amount no matter what, right? So it's exciting. And it's interesting when you think about the timeline. When Trump has said about 18 months, he often says timelines that are maybe a little bit more fungible. But I think if you're a big oil producer, you're excited about the opportunity. I think more is good. We've talked about, well, how can the stock be up if it requires all this amount of investment? But if you think that it's a revenue opportunity, a production opportunity, potentially a profit opportunity, how does that profit calculus change with oil at 50 instead of 70 or 80? But there is an opportunity there. But I think there are still a lot of questions, and I don't know if this is a 2-year thing. I hope it's not a 10-year thing. I hope it's not a $100 billion thing. But I think it'll be really interesting to see what sort of security guarantees does the U.S. have to work with Venezuela to come up with a favorable contract, so a Chevron or an Exxon do feel safe going in there. What does that contract look like? Is it partially now owned by the U.S.? You know, I'm looking at Intel with that 10% U.S. stake. How does that work? So lots of questions, but I'm actually glad that there are questions. I think overall this is an exciting opportunity. Lots of expenses that have to go in, but I don't think these companies will do it blindly. I think they will do it if there is money to be made.
I'm preaching to the choir because Jackie has covered oil for so many, or did for so many years. There are a lot of, and what I was mentioning last hour as Torsten Slok picked up on what we were talking about here yesterday, is that the crude oil, the proven reserves were 100 billion barrels a day. And Hugo Chavez just magically tripled them. And they're self-reported to OPEC. And they were reclassified. And so no one really knows truly what the proven oil reserves are there, and they are the heavy crude. And it's hard to get and does require the kind of modern technology that the big producers have. But the equation, one, the big oil companies are used to doing business and operating in very dangerous parts of the world. So I don't know if it's the danger per se, but it is the issue of there's questionable long-term demand for fossil fuels. Trump is out the door in less than 3 years. Some other socialist takes over there and potentially here. Yeah. So they don't have, the oil companies and any exploration and production companies don't have the cover of a leader here or there that has their backs. And so why would they make the investment? That is kind of short form.
No,
equation.
You're right. And I was just going to say, it all depends on how this transition actually plays out. And there is a big fear, I think, more here in a administration change, a party change, that will then ultimately reverse so many of the things that President Trump has tried to do and creates a situation that's maybe potentially worse than before we even started. I think that's one of the risks with this. I don't think that's something that he's thinking about because he wanted to elicit change, and I understand that, but it's something that we have to think about. What interests me here is where Venezuela's oil goes. When I think about Iran, when I think about China, you can see the geopolitics in play. Right now, you've got a situation where people are taking to the streets looking to overthrow that regime. The president said that he would be locked and loaded if people got hurt, that he would support the protesters on the streets of Iran. And the New York Post is reporting that the supreme leaders got a plan similar to what Bashar al-Assad did, which is if you know it gets really bad there, they're transferring assets, and he's going to go to Russia, another one of our enemies.
Lovely.
So you've got a situation where just stopping this flow right now in that regard, right, is helpful. Also think about China and Taiwan not being able to get their oil from Venezuela, even though they'll still get it probably from Russia and Iran on the black market. It creates a situation where they'll have less ammunition to want to go after Taiwan. He solved a lot of problems geopolitically, or at least kept our enemies at bay by doing this. And Dagan, you just made me think about the heavy oil. He's even putting Canada on notice in a way because they've got the heavy oil in the tar sands. And kind of saying, listen, you know, you're not the only show in town. If we're more in charge of what's happening in Venezuela, we can get that oil. So, right, when you think about...
No, I mean, he did it. He did exactly that, like
moves?
heavy oil. We got a few choices
like,
here now.
It's actually pretty amazing.
So can I pick up on your theory, though? 'Cause
Yeah.
you made me think about something. Do we have to be in a hurry to do anything with oil
No.
in Venezuela? I actually think that's the key here. Who was it? Was it Secretary Rubio who said, he came on right after this happened, and he said, we do not need Venezuelan oil.
He did say that, yeah.
And I think that is the best position to be in. If we needed Venezuelan oil, then we'd be having to have these tough conversations about how much should we subsidize companies to go in and how do we keep them safe and blah, 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 blah.
But do we need their critical minerals?
I think Jackie's kind of making the point that once you just step in and cut off the flow, you've dealt with a lot of geopolitical problems. And now you can take your time and say, guess what? We can help you become rich and maybe produce 4 million barrels a day at some point. But we're going to do it when it makes economic sense for our companies. I'm just saying, let's not rush. Everybody's kind of like, we're going to get gas prices down this year with Venezuelan oil. I don't think so. I don't think we need it to get gas prices down. Let's not spend American treasure and American blood to go get something we don't need in the next couple months.
We're also getting gas prices down with our own oil. That's a huge part of it.
We're doing
That's what
fine
I'm
on
saying.
our
Pretty
own.
well. And when the money and the deregulation inside the one big beautiful bill, when that stuff kicks in this year, that's going to make it easier for people to get U.S. petroleum and, as you say, have less of a need. Oh my God, let's get our hands on the Venezuelan oil. I think building on what Jackie said in terms of the national security aspects of all this, I think the chief source for Cuban oil and Cuban energy
is Venezuela as well.
And boy, what a great position we're in now, just to keep it maybe. I don't think there are going to be a lot of tankers going from the Venezuelan coast into the port of Havana anytime soon. So the lights could be going off in Havana, and that could get the people in the streets finally, I hope, to overthrow their communist government, put in a pro-U.S., pro-capitalist government.
Just one thing, and with production ramping here, and it's only ramped in the last year or so, he still has 3 years, which he's our president, President Trump. That's what gave him the ability to be able to make a move like this, which is really phenomenal when you think about it. And anybody who is buying Venezuelan oil oil who may say that they can't get it, for example, I bet you the next thing out of his mouth is going to be, you can get it from us.
Guess what we got?
You got to pay us in dollars.
That's one of the concerns. There was an internal Venezuelan document that said if the blockade was not lifted, that production in Venezuela could go from where it is already to 300,000 barrels a day. So it could be damaged even further. And what's kind of the situation on the ground is being referred to as a dicta blanda, which means in Spanish, a soft dictatorship, but with U.S. economic deals. So it's not boots on the ground. And if there were going to be boots on the ground, I think you would see, I said this before, a reaction in treasuries. Because if there's going to be a great cost, not in actual money, you would see a reaction because we're walking that knife's edge in terms of spending.
And I think there won't be boots on the ground because once again, you've got a president in the United States who has established himself as a true leader and also who shows the world that he means what he says. I can't imagine any transition, any government coming into power in Venezuela right now that is going to oppose what the president essentially has the vision of what he wants to do there. Why would you? Because they look at what happened to Maduro. They're looking at what's happening around the world. You don't want to mess with him.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Leave the man alone.